We saw what happened at the draft lottery. Of course, we saw. Everyone saw. Dallas Mavericks vaulted up to the first overall selection in the NBA draft. Moved up 10 spots despite having a 1.8% chance of getting that first overall pick. Only an 8.5% chance of even moving into the top four. The San Antonio Spurs had a 26.3% chance of moving to the top four. They go second. The Philadelphia 76ers had a 42.1% chance of going top four, and they get the third overall pick. Those ones maybe not as ridiculous, but the pick odds in general, like Philly, 10.6% chance of moving to third. San Antonio, 6.3% chance of moving to second. It was very unlikely for that to happen, but that's how the lottery works. The lottery is for the top four picks. That is what the lottery balls are deciding. There are 14 ping pong balls numbered 1 through 14 that the machine spits out at random, and the combination of numbers 1 through 14, each team is assigned a certain amount of combinations for different positions, and that combination of four numbers of ping pong balls put the Dallas Mavericks first, put the San Antonio Spurs second, put the Philadelphia 76ers third, and the Charlotte Hornets fourth. That was what the lottery balls spit out. The rest of the order in the draft lottery is just reverse standings beyond that. The lottery is for the top four picks. Hence why when you look at the pick odds, every team in the lottery has a chance to move up into any of the top four positions. And then the further you'll go down, the more teams that jump up, the further these teams can fall. So for the Raptors, who were 7th in the reverse standings, if somehow four teams were to jump above them into the lottery, they can move back a maximum of 4 positions. That's how the lottery works. It's for the top 4 picks. But it's at random, and a lot of randomness can happen. And that was one of the more random outcomes I think that we have maybe ever seen with this current lottery system. But maybe, some people are wondering, maybe it's not random. How could something with such a low percentage probability, something with a 0.0114% chance of happening, how could that happen to those 3 teams? Those 3 bigger markets like Dallas, like San Antonio, like Philly. How could it happen to them? People think it's rigged. People talk about it being rigged. Tim Bontemps says, this is ESPN analyst, still can't believe this happened. Dufine says, proof, it's rigged. Ladies and gentlemen, the lottery is not rigged. The lottery is positively not rigged. It is observed behind the scenes by executives, by media. It is a ping pong ball machine that shoots out 4 random ping pong balls of 14. And that's it. That determines the lottery order. There's not logos or names on these ping pong balls. It is literally 14 ping pong balls with the numbers 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 14. Each team, or each possible 1,001 outcomes assigns a certain 4 teams to end up as the top pick, the second pick, the third pick, and the fourth pick. I think in the rigged conversation, I feel like we don't have control over the lottery. It's all luck-based. But people don't want to feel completely helpless. I don't know why, but I feel like NBA fans just don't want to feel like they're completely helpless in this situation. They are. But I think there's a comfort level that people get by thinking, well, it's rigged anyway, so what are we supposed to do about it? It's just a random assortment of ping pong balls that give out that have predetermined probabilities. Like any top 4 order would have been unlikely. You could have kept the same order. You could have kept this exact same order. Jazz, Wizards, Hornets, Pelicans as the top 4. That would have been really unlikely. It would have been really unlikely for it to stay in the exact same order. But people are upset just because it is the bigger markets that did get rewarded. But no, it is not rigged. It is just any outcome would have been unlikely. This is just a very unlikely one that also featured teams that people probably didn't want to see get rewarded. But what I also wanted to focus on here was the second part of this tweet from Bontemps saying, I do think it's fair to wonder if the new rules for the lottery have helped or if they've created more problems than they've solved. Today didn't help that because, like, the Dallas Mavericks got rewarded with the first overall pick. Dallas, of course, traded Luka Doncic midseason for Anthony Davis. And the goal of that trade was to make the Dallas Mavericks better right now for this season. They wanted to make the playoffs. They didn't. Injuries played a part. They missed out through the play-in tournament. They got sucked into the lottery, where they won the lottery. Absolutely won the lottery with that 1.8% chance. But it's not like the NBA is just, we feel bad for you, Dallas. Sorry, y'all. You made a bad trade. We feel bad. You know, let's get Cooper Flag in this big market destination. And, yeah, we're sorry, bro. You know, we needed Luka on the Lakers because we needed to boost the NBA's TV ratings. They're crumbling. We needed Luka on the Lakers so people would start watching the NBA more. But you know what? We'll throw you a bone as a thank you for sending Luka to the Lakers. For that, we'll give you Cooper Flag. Like, how is this to some people more plausible than just random luck, random variance, and the draft just being an actual lottery? It's literally called a fucking lottery, right? But again, it's just a control thing. But has this helped? Has this hindered? Because a big talking point out of this draft was that the Utah Jazz fell 4 spots to 5th overall. This is the 3rd year in a row that the first seed for the lottery, the bottom seed in the NBA, has fallen the maximum of 4 positions. They fell to 5th overall, as did the Pistons last year, and unfortunately the Pistons the year before that. But there is a 48% chance that they can fall there. Because the lottery, what it does, it doesn't necessarily reward you with a top 4 pick, like guaranteed. You only have a 52.1% chance if you're the worst in the NBA to get a top 4 pick. Tanking heightens your floor. You have a higher floor now that you are the worst team today. Because the lowest you can go is 5th, and the Wizards found out the lowest they could go was 6th, and they did. They fell to 6th overall despite having a 20% chance to do that. The Pelicans fell to 7th despite having a 16.8% chance to do that, right? The lottery, again, is for those top 4 picks. So there's a certain trade-off there. The Jazz egregiously tanked for so much of this season. Did they deserve the first overall pick? The point of this new lottery system is to decentivize teams from doing that. Wizards tanked pretty much the entire season. They fall to 6. So the problem is teams are still going to tank, and they need that help, but there's no perfect solution. Do we reward these teams for being hopelessly bad and pathetic and not playing their regular players for big minutes and resting guys and faking injury reports? Do we reward the teams for doing that? Or do we leave it up to random chance like we saw here? How are these teams supposed to get better if they don't tank? Because the Wizards are hopeless. The Hornets are hopeless. What are they supposed to do if they're not tanking? They can't make the playoffs anyways. Tanking would probably be even worse if we didn't have this lottery system in place. So it's not perfect, I agree, but you can't flatten the odds. Like, you can't give every team the same percentage chance, because if you do that, then there's going to be really hard tanking around this area. Teams who don't want to make the play-in. And then now the play-in becomes less competitive, and the chase for the play-in becomes less competitive than it already is. So there's no perfect system here. I'm not sure that the NBA has it completely correct, though, with the way it's in place. Maybe the lottery is just for the first overall pick and the rest of the teams aren't punished as much with how they can fall. Maybe the lottery is just for the top 3 picks and, less of a chance to get bumped as far as some teams have done. But the NBA is trying to make teams think harder about tanking. But I think that reigned true for a little bit. And then the last few years since like the Wemby year, I think Wemby kind of opened people's eyes. Just like, man, we weren't gonna make the playoffs anyways. Why didn't we just give ourselves the best possible chance at getting Victor Wembanyama? So I think that's how a lot of people are starting to think. I'm not sure the NBA will overreact to this. I just think, look, it was a randomized outcome, and not randomized. It was a weighted possibility of outcomes, and it just turned out that some of the bigger markets got rewarded, and that kind of sucks for the rest of the NBA's fan bases. But I don't see any drastic changes happening to this. But what do you guys think? Big changes coming?